Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, we're a little bit late, but nonetheless, we are here. So, what's the plan? Well, look, this is going to be probably one of the biggest weeks in cryptocurrency, and it's got nothing to do with cryptocurrency. There are going to be beneficiaries of this thing that's going to be happening, and I'm sure you guys are pretty aware of what we're talking about. It's the Nvidia story. Now, I think something is brewing right now. And if you go back to all the times that there was a big news announcement from any major corporation, whether it be Intel, Microsoft, Google, Apple, the stock market tends to pull some very interesting behaviors. It could be a drop to the downside, and then the news announcement comes out, or the earnings call, and then everything shoots back up again. I think we're going into the same story with Nvidia. The NASDAQ and the S&P took a bit of a tumble today, but the Dow Jones ended up finishing higher. Tech's obviously got a smack across the board, but I believe that we're getting ready for, if the data is suggesting that Nvidia is going to come through with yet again another stellar fundamental result, which is only going to lead to what? Everything going back up. Now, we've got one more event, and that's coming on September the 18th. That's the FOMC press conference with the federal funds rate, where we are expecting them to cut the interest rates. From now going into that point, the market's going to be betting on the idea of how aggressive the cuts are going to be after the initial cut itself. But when we get the cut, that's the Fed pivot. And what we're going to dive into tonight, ladies and gentlemen, is to really just work out if we are on the level playing field with the marketplace. In other words, is everything getting set up to come back up in line with the Fed pivot to bring it all down? Historically, the Fed pivot does that. Whenever there is a change in monetary policy, the markets tend to correct. We have not stopped going up. With high interest rates, high inflation, it just hasn't stopped. Now we've got the interest rates getting cut, and the markets are at all-time highs near enough. Doesn't sit right. They need to be pricing in the future. That's what the markets do. And if the markets are pricing in the future, that tells me that the future's not looking bright. Why? Because everything's going up now. So what does that only mean? We're going to see a nice little correction. And tonight what I'm going to do is just break down this story for you all so that you've got something to take away with you. I'm also going to be talking about some trading I did today on NASDAQ's little tumble to the downside. And I'm going to be breaking down the logic to help you understand why I'm taking specific trades. Okay, so for anyone that is involved in trading NASDAQ, that one is for you. And then we'll dive into a little bit of Bitcoin price action and then understand what we can go into in tomorrow's marketplace. Because in my opinion, they're all going to be waiting for Nvidia. That's the honest truth. It's like we've got our new FOMC meeting again, but it's for Nvidia. The tech market is going to be watching very closely. And I think today's the day they made the bold move. So let's just see how it all rolls out for us. With that being said, yes, we don't have anything behind us now. We're still moving things about, ladies and gentlemen, just to make it aesthetically kind on your eyes. I've got some pictures. Anyway, I'm not even going to bother with it. But let's get with the program, ladies and gentlemen. Let's have a conversation. So, NASDAQ falls 1% as Nvidia hit before earnings call. So Nvidia's going to be declaring its earnings. Please pencil this into your calendars. Get it in there. Because Nvidia will be declaring its earnings at the close of the market on Wednesday. So we go to the calendar, roll over to Wednesday, and you can see Nvidia is going to be declaring its earnings on Wednesday. As a little bit of a warning, okay? If you are currently in risk right now, you're going to be dealing with two scenarios. You're either going to be waiting for this news announcement and rely on the idea that Nvidia is going to succeed and give a stellar performance in their fundamentals. Or Nvidia does come through, but it doesn't hit the expectations. And then the markets will really aggressively correct because they'll look at it like this. If Nvidia isn't consistently hitting right now and it keeps on setting the bar higher and higher and higher for itself, because every time they do declare their earnings, it's an example of how strong the AI market really is. People are calling it a bubble. They're calling it a fad, everything. So this next earnings announcement is critical for the market. A stock is going to determine where investors put their money. Then again, it is a $3.5 trillion market cap. You can only understand why everyone's paying attention to it. Okay. Now, with that being said, this leads us to this story. New oil and gold. Crypto is suddenly braced for the most important week after a Federal Reserve-powered Bitcoin price surge. So, Bitcoin makes a move to the upside, Federal Reserve, rate cuts, happy days. Now, because Nvidia is going to be coming out with its earnings, this is where Bitcoin could actually start to pull back, which is why I'm suggesting you take some profits across the board. Now, this is my logic, okay? Go over to Nvidia. Where are we at with Nvidia? Here we go. There's Nvidia's price action, all right? And this is on the 1 hour time frame. Given that the stock market has dropped 1% today, go over to the NASDAQ, you can see it dropped quite badly, all right? Nvidia hasn't done too badly, in my opinion. It's done pretty well, still holding moving averages, all right? For anybody that might not be in time with the live stream when we do actually, because we're going to be live during the actual release of Nvidia's earnings, but there won't be no reaction to the marketplace per se. But if we just go into Nvidia's fundamentals, just to show you what I'm talking about, why it's so important, and this is all going to lead to cryptocurrency, because unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, crypto ain't going to move unless the markets move, and that's the problem we've got. Some might not like that, but that's the truth. So just go over to the daily. I want to draw your attention to what's going on at the bottom right here. You can see the 2 quarters. 2 quarters, Nvidia's earnings and sales. Now, for anyone that is involved in Nvidia as a stock, how many of you do actually hold Nvidia stocks? Quite frankly, it's cheap as chips. Sorry. You'll frown at buying a Bitcoin. You'll frown at even investing in Bitcoin. Some people frown at Bitcoin, but then some people will frown at Nvidia. Now, they can't sustain this. AI is just a fad. There's no point in it. And that's coming from heavyweights in Wall Street. But these are the old veterans that have been buying value-based stocks like Coca-Cola and transportation stocks, which are all subject to certain cycles of human nature as the years go by. Tech stocks, it's like buying meme coins in, or legitimately in the stock market, to be precise, because they're just crazy volatility. But the volatility only comes because of the yields, and I'll get to that very shortly. But look at the earnings down here. This will be, if they come through, if Nvidia come through with this earnings announcement, this will be the 5th consecutive quarterly earnings result that Nvidia has smashed expectations. That is unbelievable. Unbelievable. 5 quarters back to back. That is just that is absolutely wild for a stock. Okay? So when you're getting ready for it, ladies and gentlemen, just take into consideration, you need to make sure that if you do have risk in Nvidia, that you are paying attention to Wednesday's result at the close, okay? But the NASDAQ in principle won't be reacting straight away if they do release it afterwards, because they don't always release it at the close. Sometimes it could be a little bit afterwards, all right? So at 10 p.m. when the market's full shot and the futures markets go dead, and when the news announcements come out, NASDAQ and the S&P and the futures will either gap up or down. But sometimes what happens to the NASDAQ is they like to make a little bit of a move beforehand. If you go to when Microsoft declared their earnings, Microsoft, wow, that was an event. So where was it? I think it was when they last declared it. S&P, NASDAQ was going down. No, where was it? It was here. I think it was here around this time here. All right, just before the all-time high. What was going on was NASDAQ was trading lower, and then throughout the rest of the evening, it just started to pump, okay? Those of you that remember, if you just go back and find when Microsoft declared their earnings, when was that? Let me just go back into that. Microsoft declared their earnings, and they were buzzing for life about it. I think it was here. Where was the earnings announcements? Earnings was right here. I think it was that. Was that the time? Yes, I think that was it. Yeah, that was it. So there was an earnings announcement from them, but it doesn't make sense. NASDAQ was actually moving pretty aggressively when Microsoft were going into the declaration of the earnings. Then the earnings came out, they did well, but NASDAQ had already made the move up, okay? So sometimes they can move up beforehand, but when we get closer towards that time, I think I'll be able to understand if they are going to actually pull that flavor, because I genuinely believe that if Nvidia come through, okay, before that, NASDAQ will be taking a bit of a tumble to the downside. That's what I believe is going to happen, okay? I believe NASDAQ's going to keep on going down until Wednesday, going into the data that's coming out, we don't really have anything other than consumer confidence data and Richmond Manufacturing Index. Nothing to be concerned about, and that's going into tomorrow. Tomorrow, the London markets return. So we now have a full marketplace where there's no bank holiday. So we're going to then really see what investors are feeling about what's going on as of late. So we could get another day where NASDAQ drops down, which takes me over to my trading today. So today on my trading, I was trading this logic with the NASDAQ. Let me just show you right here. So can you see it? Yeah, happy days. Right, so I was trading the shorts on the NASDAQ. It was just shortly after the New York live today. I saw an opportunity where price was rejecting and breaking down aggressively. I don't know if you can see it right now. Let me just move myself from here. You'll see it. Right, top side right here. This is where I was opening my shorts. Took advantage of a short on the NASDAQ to effectively see it trade away from the VWAP. And they kept on coming down, reversal, down, reversal. And if you look over here, there was not really that much of a market profile. But by principle of the vectors, if you look left, this is on the hourly, I was looking at how NASDAQ was going to behave from this perspective. I'm looking at these ranges here, okay? And on the smaller time frames, NASDAQ was showing vector candles on the 30-second time frame and the 1-minute time frame, all right? So those were the logics that I was trading today on the NASDAQ. Now, going back into the image itself, we managed to see price come all the way down, and we have the actual entries and exits was right here. So if we just zoom in a little bit, started to run the shorts from the top side here. But what you'll notice about my positioning is this. There's my sell, one contract. Closed it right there. Another set. Oh, I took a buy order right here. Sold it up here. Quick scalps on the NASDAQ. We went for a sell order right here. Took a tumble to the downside. Closed it. Took another sell order right here. Closed it at the lows. Took a buy order down here. Took another buy order. Waited a little bit. Closed one. Opened again. Took another buy, added to the position, closed both positions right there. Now, that effectively netted us a return on the day of $2,892. And this is on my live account. So I've got with Ninja Trader, I've got one of these live accounts here. And that's where the profit was right there as a live account. So it's not a funded program, not doing that. Just earn personal cash. Started off with 5K. And now we're at $8,283. So I've got this account and then my other account on Tradeovate. So I'm bouncing between the two and seeing what the volatility is like. So I'll trade this one for a week, go to my Tradeovate. But if and only if I get a situation where I'm opening a trade on this account, right? And then it's not working right for me, I can hold the position overnight, but then I can go over to my Tradeovate account and I can scalp my way out of it. Similar to what I'm going to be doing like I did last week with regards to options. I'll open an option for the NASDAQ to go up over the next 4 days. And that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for NASDAQ to go up over the next 4 days up until the news announcements for Nvidia. So if the news announcements comes out and it's favorable, NASDAQ will then make a move to the upside, and then I'll have an extra day to hold on to my option, which would effectively end up in the money, which will then effectively be NASDAQ going back up into these vector candles that it's leaving behind over here. All right, so I want to see NASDAQ try and take a tumble lower to then try and make its way back up to take out what could be the all-time high, and it's not too far away. So now you're probably wondering, okay, Tino, where does this leave us with BTC? Well, what's been going on in the space of cryptocurrency? Backing it again, Nvidia. All right. Analysts polled by FactSet are expecting Nvidia to hit earnings of 65 cents per share, up 114% year over year. Now there's going to be some stocks or cryptocurrency coins that are effectively going to benefit from this. So you've got coins such as Tau, and then you've got Fetch AI. I mean, that coin itself was absolutely wonderful. Gentleman's asked me about Fetch, asking me, yo, T, is now a good time and what have you. So there's your pattern right there with Fetch. You can see it's taken a move down and then everything's gone up with crypto. So will most altcoins. Now, everyone's asking if we are going into an altcoin season. And by the principle of this data here, you can see right here, altcoin season index is coming in at 12%. There you go, at the top side right there, 12%. So it's mainly, it's not there yet. I wouldn't say it's there because we've also got the Bitcoin dominance. And the Bitcoin dominance, look how it's behaving right now. It's trying to mark itself higher, but going into Bitcoin price action, it's coming down. So there is effectively accumulation happening in Bitcoin, all right? There is accumulation, and that accumulation is being set with what's going on here. So if you look at this chart, you've effectively got All of these guys right now, these are longs getting liquidated. These bubbles here, they're longs getting liquidated. And when you look at this chart, you'll zoom out and you say to yourself, you know what? How are you making sense of this? The best way for you to view this chart is to zoom out. It's the only way you can do it. All right. And when you're zooming out, you got to ask yourself, what do you see more of? Do you see price rising or do you see price dropping? Well, what have we seen? A lot of what's been going on? A lot of price rising. And this is where I will present this argument to everybody in cryptocurrency right now. You want Bitcoin to go up. Yeah, cool. You can't pay attention to it when it's going up because you've effectively missed the move. Sounds really counterintuitive. But why am I suggesting to you to not pay attention to Bitcoin when it's going up? Because that same attention is being removed by the people selling it. You want to pay attention to when Bitcoin drops. The aggressive nature of how Bitcoin drops is going to lead into the idea of how aggressively it's going to move up. And you want to pay attention to the drops. Because when you pay attention to someone selling the Bitcoin, that means weak hands are getting rid of it. There's a buy order below that. You want to pay attention to that. When you pay attention to that, you're then going to be able to get a scope of how likely it's going to go back up based on the interest of the weak hands, because the weak hands are buying Bitcoin when it's rising. That's weak people, weak traders who are relying on information such as news articles or events, all right? The event will move the asset and then people will jump onto the bandwagon and then you'll see this sort of behavior where you see all this red here. And this is for anybody new coming into the live stream. These are the offers. This is what people are prepared to sell at. And they can only sell if people are coming in buying. The guys have been buying over here, ladies and gentlemen. Look, all this area over here. See all that? All of these green areas here. These are people buying, but people are getting liquidated. And when they sell their marginal positions, the margins for their leverage, right? When they're selling, a buy order is taken from the back of that. So you can see how aggressive the buyers are stepping in. Passive buyers are picking it all up. The exchange's job is to make sure that they can actually feed the relationship between who's happy to buy and who's happy to sell, okay? That's why price will move to specific points. You've also got to consider with regards to open interest as well. Look what's going on in open interest in terms of options. Everyone's in calls right now on Bitcoin. Everyone is favoring calls. Go down here, look. You've got calls 27th of December. You've got June down here. They're not really coming in with that much value, but there's a lot of calls. Now, the only thing, I mean, look, Bitcoin is taking a bit of a bloody hell. It's moving pretty quick. It is moving pretty quick. Did I say anything wrong about Bitcoin? My days. Which I'm glad it has actually made this move because today we were waiting for specific setups. Today we provided platinum membership setups. Ethereum setup, we wanted to see it work its way down today. I was expecting a down day overall with crypto, and just go over to Ethereum. You can see she did really well and she came into our projected zone, which was the 2,680. She's about to take, no, yeah, she completely wet the floor with that. Complete recovery to the downside. So any of you guys that are still in those plays, if you are in them, make sure you're taking some profit off the table. We had Solana as well, but Solana, out of the three projections I did on Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana's been very, very tricky to say the least. If we just go over to it. Yeah, it's been very choppy. And this is strength for Solana, right? This is very good for Solana. But if it does lose this area, then we're going to have problems with Solana. And then we go into Bitcoin price action. You can see that Bitcoin has eventually made the move. We wanted to see Bitcoin climb up first, factor in what it could do. And if it doesn't do it, the narrative is saying that we're expecting it to come down. So then by that principle, looking at Bitcoin, it's near enough on its way to our projected zone, which is the green vector candle recovery. Don't say I didn't tell you guys, because I said, make sure you're taking some profits because people are getting burnt right now. And we know they're getting burnt because people's liquidation points are being triggered right now. Because if you look at it, zoom out, if you look closely, bottom of here, can you see that? The long liquidations are being activated. So that's going to lead us to believe what? Someone is buying. This is when you pay attention. The person that wants to buy Bitcoin on spot pays attention now. Not because they're selling it. No one's selling Bitcoin. The dudes that are getting rid of their Bitcoin because they're capitulated or they're getting scared, they're being forced to do something emotionally. These are the people that are getting liquidated right now. Those are the people that are leaving Bitcoin. You don't want to pay attention to them. You want to pay attention to the people that are making it possible for them to leave. And that's with all these orders that are coming in here. Look at this. You see these red bits here? Those red bits there, I've switched it in the settings to represent when the buys and the sells, okay, are presented in the opposing colors. So when prices, I haven't done it here because I haven't done my settings correctly for it because I just new PC and all that madness. So I still need to do this, but I've trained my eyes to be vigilant to it anyway. But in the profiles, what I've done is where you guys are seeing red, okay, that is the sell orders as red. But I flipped that to buy orders to change it to the color of green because I need to know where they're buying from because they're not buying as price is rising. That's proof right here. Price was coming down from the top side up here at 64,166. Down here, someone bought at 63,711, $18 million worth of Bitcoin. Why am I going to pay attention to price rising? That means interest is leaving the market. And the only reason why Bitcoin will continue to go higher, the only reason why it will take out the 100K at some point is because there's going to be enough people with a commitment of picking up Bitcoin, and then they're going to keep on releasing it and selling it to the participants that are going to come in and believe Bitcoin should be higher. So what the market's effectively doing is preparing us all to get everyone hyped up that Bitcoin's going to go to 100K. That means we've got an inventory of people waiting to grab our orders. Well, we need to get our orders first. That's what the bidders are saying. And that's why you're looking at this here, where Bitcoin's going to do vector to vector. Remember what we said, vector to vector. They're doing vector to vector. You got a news announcement, Nvidia. And if they're going to be buying Bitcoin before Nvidia, now's the time. And if Nvidia's really going to do a great return, why the hell would they want Bitcoin so expensive? So the markets will effectively navigate between pools of liquidity. Where can they transact at? The market's got to make sure that it's always busy. Where are the busy periods? You got busy periods down here. You've got 10 million bids down there. You've got another cluster area here with about 500,000 orders, but that's dead anyway. We go even further into it, 2.2 million right there at 62,100. So you've got to say to yourself, I can't pay attention to when prices are rising. It sounds really counterintuitive, ladies and gentlemen, but you've missed the move if you're paying attention to price going higher because you are selling to someone. You really are. You are selling to someone. You might think you're buying. You're pressing the button to buy, but you're really being sold to. And that in itself already seems like not a violation, but you'll always be buying something thinking, it's going to lose value at some point. It depreciates. When you get an appreciation so fast, it's going to depreciate. The best way for me to put it to you. Now, some of you might think, what the hell is this guy talking about? What if Bitcoin from this point goes up and up and up? Well, it won't. It's never going to go continuously pencil-like formation and make a move higher. That's not what it's going to do. But the whole point of me expressing this to you all is because everyone's getting caught out in the wrong idea of how prices should be moving. We know that there is the logic that someone has to buy in order for someone to sell, and in order for someone to sell, someone has to buy. When you pay attention to that, but flip it. So when prices are dropping, get your buying hat on. When prices are rising, you're either going to join and sell. But if you are going to take advantage of price climbing higher, you better make sure that you're taking something off the table because you are effectively getting put into the situation where the guys who have been selling are going to start saying, you know what, we need it to come back down again. We want a bit of a discount on Bitcoin. And then that's when Bitcoin will roll over and everyone's going to be like, oh, why did I lose out on this trade and what have you? I buy as it's rising and then it goes down. The market hates me. The market does not hate you. It just so happens that when prices are rising, thousands and thousands of other people are buying into the same thing and then the market will always reverse. So flip it. Make it easier for yourself. When price has made a drop to the downside and it's clearly demonstrated that there is interest in specific zones, and the hybrid system will give you that. It will tell you and help you identify where in the chart is there going to be interest, because you've got to say to yourself, all of this behavior right here in Bitcoin, from the Japanese yen carry trade principle to the sharp reversal back up, right? Even at that point, them dropping price, and then you just see a vector candle coming into play. stopping the whole move. Look, all of that activity back then, and they couldn't even close below the wick. Vector candle, deviation away from the moving average, happy days. Trade back into the moving average. Even if you were not going to pay any attention to what was going on by the principle of the Japanese yen when they increased the interest rates, a trade like that would have netted you a nice little return. We exploited that. Just go back and watch the live streams of when I was away. I had to trade crypto during that time because I didn't have access to the New York sessions. Well, the NASDAQ, I didn't have all my stuff with me. But those are the sort of plays that we're looking for every single day, ladies and gentlemen. Okay? Does that make sense to you all? Yeah? Cool. Moving from that, what could be fueling this at the same time? We've got this story about gold. Remember when I said to you, when gold starts hitting the all-time highs and gold starts getting mentioned in the news, this is when you've got to pay close attention. And go by that principle that we spoke about earlier on, gold hedgers position. They're getting ready to offload gold. And gold right now is holding at its all-time highs. All right? There'll be nothing stopping gold from sweeping that all-time high to solidify articles like this. But with AI and what's going on, for me, gold, $3,000 an ounce, and then silver, $50, but they're talking about a specific level around the $30 level is where it's at right now. But these guys are talking more technical analysis of it. I'm looking at silver and gold from the perspective of the demand for it in the AI sector. All right. At the same time, tensions overseas are naturally going to be leading gold to climb higher. You've got the BRICS story. You've got all sorts of things happening. But in my belief, gold is getting ready to be sold. They're going to rip gold down. And the only best time for that would be coming into the Fed pivot. That's the only time I can think that gold will actually drop because there'll be a change in fiscal in monetary policy. All right. I just saw an article earlier on over here. Let me just see if I've got it. Is it? No, it isn't. No, I haven't got it here. But it was an article that was pretty much suggesting that the US bonds themselves they're not the favorite place for safety right now. That's nuts. The US has maintained historically the US bonds are the safest instrument. That's not the case right now, which would make sense given that how much debt the US dollar has, which only opens up the room for what? Bitcoin. If you go back, remember in the day when we were talking about investment portfolios behaviors with these hedge fund managers, they split their portfolios 60-40. And if Bitcoin was able to claim 1% of that 40% of the diversification in a portfolio, so 60% goes to stocks, commodities, Forex, and 40% goes into bonds. If Bitcoin takes 1% of that 40%, knocks it to 39%, and it's in the category of bonds, deemed as a safe haven, your Bitcoin wouldn't be $100,000, ladies and gentlemen. Your Bitcoin would be $500,000. But that's another story. Questions. I've got some questions here. Funding rates, anything to do? All right, let me have a look at what you guys are saying over here. I'm keeping an eye on Bitcoin's price action, to be honest with you all. Not really seeing that much activity. Yeah, it's just still at 63, so it's not a problem here. Tino, what can we expect from oil? Quite frankly, with oil, you've got to say to yourself, where are we macroeconomically speaking? Okay? Tensions overseas with Israel. That's going to be a bit of a problem. They've retaliated after an attack. What's going to happen next? Another attack. So oil is going to be fluctuating on that basis. Okay? If Trump comes into power, he is of the idea that he wants to try and get oil down to $50 a barrel. Okay? He also is favor of the dollar. Don't get it twisted. He's down with the crypto, but he's also favoring the dollar. And this brings me over to this story over here that we haven't spoken about just yet. Polymarket bets. It's very tight. And it just, from my opinion, it doesn't make sense that it's tight. I don't get it. It is a very, very tight story. Both of them have tried the cryptocurrency flip. They really have. You know, what more could they go into? He's going to be increasing taxes. He wants to cut taxes. All right. But inflation is up. Food cost is high. Housing is high. Renting, it's massive. Okay. And you got the issue of inflation as well. All right. Stocks markets are all-time high. Fed has just cut the interest rates. Stocks are all-time high. They ain't even cut the interest rates just yet. The person that goes into power has got a lot of work to clean up. It's like a disaster waiting to happen. Naturally, you think that Bitcoin is going to deliver during that time. But if Bitcoin is following the stock market, ladies and gentlemen, then you're going to have yourself a bit of a problem with BTC, and it might just get that little bit cheaper. Okay. Thank you very much, Helen. Questions? I will cook for you. Can minting Tether be a sign of weakness instead of strength, since people may be exchanging out of crypto into stable coins? But you could say that, but you got to look at the exchange. Okay, so if you look at the exchange stablecoin ratio, all right, when that's going up, it would then suggest that people are actively doing something with stablecoins on exchanges, which could lead to movement higher. I haven't got the chart in front of me to check that out, but it's... The problem is, right, the issue that we have with cryptocurrency is you'll see a whale that has dumped like, okay, for example, the article that we saw earlier on, the dormant whale address that's got over 2,000 ETH in it, $5 million. What's he going to do with it? After 9 years, what's he going to do with it? HODL. It's a miner's wallet. He's going to cash it out. If he forgot about it, he's going to cash it out. And where we are right now at the prices, because you've got to think of it. Anyone that finds crypto or manages to recover some cryptocurrency and they see the prices of Bitcoin, and hypothetically they got it at 10K. What do you think they're doing? Holding? Nah, man. Tino, do you think Bitcoin could drop to 40K area before FOMC interest rate cut, then shoot up by that time? The opposite. Bitcoin needs to be moving higher before the rate cut. That's what my projection is. You don't want Bitcoin to go down before the rate cut. You don't. You want it to go as high as possible, because when it goes as high as it physically can before the rate cut, once the rate cut comes into play, Bitcoin should be dropping down. Dollars will be more accessible. Money will be cheaper, which means what? People can then buy more Bitcoin. They ain't going to be buying it at premiums. They really won't. Not at all. I don't think anyway. 1929 was a depression. I don't see that happen, but a recession, yes. Yeah, the 1929 Wall Street crash was absolutely wild, okay? Would we ever go into a depression? Nah. Wall Street, the financial subprime mortgage crisis, 2007, 2008. That was wild. $700 billion bailout. Lehman Brothers collapsed. Subprime mortgages around the world, or actually in the US, impacted everyone else around the world. That was a global financial collapse. Didn't lead to a depression. It led to the fattest buying opportunity on earth. Shot straight back up after. The way the markets work is, think of it in terms of economic expansion. How long can you economically expand for before you need to contract? All that money that's going into the marketplace, what's going to happen to it? The NASDAQ and the S&P are, the last time I said this, are 30% above value. Do you understand how much liquidity is in the stock market right now? Locked value in principle. There's loads. And when you've got anchors like Nvidia, which are now going to be fueling even more of that money. Nvidia's CEO's been selling his stock, ladies and gentlemen. He's been selling it. But he owns the company, and he's obviously got a bigger scope. He's going to be holding stock forever, but he's been selling. This could be the top off. One more event, ladies, and this is how I see it's going to be working out, okay? From now until September the 18th, we're going to be getting lots of exciting things about the US economy. It's doing okay. Oh, it's not going to be doing too well. Oh, a whale's done this. Bitcoin's done that. All right. Tensions overseas. Commodities are going up. But the bigger picture is saying that we've got an interest rate cut. Happy days. So still plow your money into the marketplace. NASDAQ and S&P traipsing away from that all-time high, trying to get so close to it to set another record. Fed has yet to cut the interest rates. We're only going by what Powell has said. So through all the time up until September the 18th, the markets in principle have one thing to do: to price in the excitement and the anticipation of dollar being cheaper. Once dollar becomes cheaper, then what happens? Principally, the market should be going up because people can borrow more money and put it to work. That's where economic expansion comes into play. Hold on a second, Tino. How can we economically expand if we've been expanding during a hidden recession, high inflation, a stubborn labor market, which now all of a sudden, because the actual unemployment rate has gone up, they're all losing their brains about it. So what's going to happen when money's cheaper, Tino? Well, technically, money can be put to work again. So if you go and have a look at where we are in terms of the charts, where NASDAQ sets a low and it goes on to make its all-time high, by that principle, just to show you as an example, go into the NASDAQ, okay? And the result of economic expansion started over here. This, in principle, is economic expansion, okay? All of that is economic expansion. Then you've got mini expansions and contractions. There is contraction, okay? And here is expansion. Contraction, expansion. Contraction, quite a fast contraction, just as fast expanding out, okay? Because the only way that money can move is if people put it to use, right? But where we are right now, I've done a video on the market crash theory. I will be so surprised if the markets keep climbing after the Fed cut. I really will. Really will. Because it's defied all odds. They are literally going against the Fed. And this is what's got me confused, that we might not confused, but I'm anticipating that we're going to see there's going to be a sharp event at some point. This is not to scaremonger you guys. This is going back on a chart that I studied of the last 150 years of the stock market. I'm sitting through corrections, bull markets, bear markets. Remember, my eyes were on the charts back in 2007, 2008. And that by that time, I was in with the stock market. So I've seen the markets correct. And then when people say you've never been through a bear market in Bitcoin, bro, bear market in cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrency only started 4 years ago, in my opinion. And that is when liquidity started to come into it. Pretty much when we started the live streams. Okay? And that was the first big bull run in Bitcoin. The biggest bull run. All right? Not the little ones where it went from 0 to 100, then from 100 to 2,000, whatever it was. Okay? This is a significant bull run in Bitcoin where it hit the all-time high of 62, 64, and then comes down again. And then it's come back up, hit 73, and then it's come back down again. What I think's going on is Bitcoin, in principle, will only hit the all-time high again, or should I say, the 100K mark, once we get this cheaper dollar story. Okay? They'll go for the all-time high up until the Fed cut. Fed pivot comes into play. Bitcoin slumps. And then we can buy it all back up with all of that cheap money that we're going to get access to because the Fed has cut the interest rates. Money is going to be cheaper. Why would you think that's a bad idea? It just isn't. Economic expansion, contraction. My belief, we're going to go into a contraction, short period of time, and then it just continues back up again. That's my logic. Do you still think we'll see 80K Bitcoin before the next FOMC? I stand here again as I don't care what anybody says. I will stand up and say what I think about where a certain asset will go. And I'll say it now. And I've said it last week. Bitcoin will hit. This is my logic based on the hybrid system, the strategy that I use, based on what we're going into in terms of financial events, economic madness that's going on with the data that is being presented to us by the Federal Reserve regarding the US economy. Okay, it's been wild. How's it making sense? But if we are at all-time highs with all the stock markets, okay, and we've not had the Fed pivot yet, and we've got inflation coming down, which is what they're making us believe. They messed up with the labor market details. I'd be surprised to know what really is going on with the inflation rate. And I've asked you guys questions in the live streams. Tell me what it's like. Is there a recession in your states? Every single one of you people come back that commented have said that it looks like it's a recession in my area. Even Robert Kiyosaki, he even said it. They're giving discounts, 60% discounts, because businesses ain't getting the money in. But then you got to look at the product that they're selling at a discount. That's even worse. That's like selling perishable foods at a discount. They're already discounted because they're perishable, like non-perishable, sorry. You can just leave it on your shelf and not worry about it. And even those things are becoming a discount. That means companies are just eager to try and get money in. This looks like it's the last attempt to cash in. That's what I think. Which means from now till the September 18th pivot, I expect Bitcoin to hit 80K at 8 p.m. When we come to the charts at 8 p.m. on the Fed pivot, which is the FOMC press conference, when they say we're cutting the interest rates, this is our new rate, that adjustment itself, I'd expect Bitcoin to be at 80K at that point. Nvidia could start the process. Nvidia would have to come through and deliver really well. Because if I've got this logic that this Nvidia trap is coming into play, the only thing that will ruin all of what I'm saying is if Nvidia fail on Wednesday. That means they don't hit their estimates and it actually shows a slowdown in their business model, which I don't think it will, man. I just got myself a new PC with a 4090 graphics card, paid very handsomely for. So people are in demand for it because it was bloody difficult to get hold of that. The money's there for them and they're just collecting because that's where we're going. It's all AI. And now you've got companies that are trying to go into the data mining. Remember, miners are selling off some of or renting out some of the space that was previously used to mine Bitcoin to companies that want to use that space for data mining. What the hell? Yeah, thanks, miners, for, keeping it real. Never mind. Chinese superstition there. Do you know what? How many do you think? Well, let's just look at the logic right now. Think about this now, okay? Challenge it. Challenge my argument. I'm the only one standing up here saying a time, date, and an event for what Bitcoin's price is going to be. I'm not the dude that's going to stand here in crypto and be like, Bitcoin's going to go to 100K and never mention it again. Or give an obscured moment where it could happen. I'm putting logic behind it, okay? I'm putting the logic of the Fed pivot, September the 18th. The FOMC press conference will go on from 7 p.m. UK time through for about an hour, okay? So that's why I said 8 p.m. So that's when we're done listening to the conversation and Powell stops tripping up and coughing every 5 minutes. I didn't hear him cough at the Jackson Hole. But that's irrelevant. The idea is once that's done and dusted, the market will get the Fed cut. Historically, it pivots, the market pivots, and it pulls back. Sorry, ain't no Fed pivot that leads the stock market to continue to move higher. Probably by a day or so, but then the bigger picture comes in. Interest rates are cut, happy days, Fed pivots, changing fiscal policy, and we've got an election. What they going to do to the economy when they get into power, right? The Democrats and the Republicans, what's going to happen there? You got one that wants to cut the taxes. Not ideal for inflation now, is it? Mr. Trump's going to make it easier for inflation to go higher. Kamala wants to increase taxes, making it harder for the American citizen. Well, not the American citizen, but anybody with wealth over 100 million. Nice little smack on the tax right there. So bringing money into the economy, happy days. That's great news. But whoever steps into power, ultimately, you've got interest rate cuts and an election. It's the biggest time, in my opinion, to reverse everything. It really is. Whether you like to admit it or not, how many of you are wanting Bitcoin to be cheaper? Don't be biased and say, I want it to go up because I bought Bitcoin at 60,000 and now the price of it is 63. Don't come with that biased behavior. Be realistic about it and say to yourself, would a cheaper Bitcoin be good for me? And if your scope on holding Bitcoin is 3-4 years, this is irrelevant to you. There will be another Fed pivot. They'll then look to increase the interest rates back up. Will we ever go back to 0.25%? Never. Never. I don't think we could ever go back to free money again. There's too much money being owed. There would have to be a financial collapse to wipe off all that debt. We had one back then, and they wiped everything. Government was printing again. So debt's been cleaned. Let's start the economic expansion again. That's the name of the game. My 150-year-old chart shows me that. Human nature doesn't change, but it bloody well rhymes. Tell me why we're in anything different. Remember now, crypto has become Wall Street. It really has. I'm telling you, we're waiting for Nvidia earnings announcements to see if Bitcoin's going to go up. How does that make sense? No one was putting Nvidia with Bitcoin back in the day, 2 years ago. It wasn't happening. No one was interested in it. No one would make the association of Nvidia with Bitcoin. Now we've got AI stocks and AI coins. And now Nvidia, everybody's waiting for a stock to declare its profit, which is going to dictate where money's going to go. Please, man. You can see that that's the impact that the stock market has on crypto. Some of you maxes might not like to hear that. But that's the truth. Don't give me no decentralization. Listen, I'm for Bitcoin. I'm for crypto. But I'm also going to be looking left and right and not going to be like this. I need to know both our avenues so I can come to a decision, because at the end of the day, it's me and you that are going to be buying this asset. Ain't no one else there. And it's up to us to try and improve the odds of that return being favorable. Rate cuts sell the news event. Yep, I agree. Never say never. Whatever its price, it doesn't matter with the hybrid system day trading. This is correct. If you are new and you're just passing through to this live stream, we use the hybrid system. This is the hybrid system. If you don't know what it is, go to the Traders Reality website. This is the setups that I provided earlier on for the guys in the Platinum membership. If you want to take advantage of that, there's a discount code on there to get you 20% off your first month. But we are very active with this, and you get trade setups every day with regards to what's going on in the marketplace. So Euro, gold, oil, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana. Okay. And then, of course, if you want to trade all of these assets with the exception of oil and Euro, go over to BTCC where you can do that alongside cryptocurrency. Okay. It's great for anyone that is in the United States, and you don't have to worry about KYC or VPN. Everything you need, ladies and gentlemen, is in the description of the video stroke live stream itself. Okay, cool. That's the past. ETFs buying a lot, 9 times daily supply Bitcoin production. Where is Bitcoin going to come from? I agree with you. Yeah, the ETF is being picked up. All right. But look at the events that we're going into. 1 minute inflows are great. Next minute outflows are even worse, and they're higher. Wall Street's in it. And Wall Street is obligated to the investor. Get the money in, get the money out. They really don't care about this story of supply and demand. Because if the idea of 21 million supply with Bitcoin is really something, BlackRock would have picked up way more than what they've got. And they certainly wouldn't be waiting for an ETF. Of course, they can't really do it. They can't buy the Bitcoin because technically as a fund, there's certain laws that don't allow them to do that, but they are authorized participants, APs that you might know them as. But in my belief, Bitcoin should have hit 100K last year. It should have hit it time ago. It's because Wall Street's in it now. When Wall Street's ready, we'll see 100K Bitcoin. If you've enjoyed tonight's live stream, ladies and gentlemen, be sure to like and subscribe. And I'll be checking in with you all in the morning. Mad love and respect. Peace.